Dog Nation, there are some days when it's very good to be a dog. And let me tell you something. This is one of those days. This is a Kroger commitment special, and guess what? We don't have to give you any drama today. You don't have to worry about waiting to see the hat show or the live animal coming out or anything like that. Nope. It's just over and it's done with. Georgia has added a 5-star edge rusher as Samuel Mpemba has made his pledge for the class of 2023. Georgia adds a big-time guy here when you look at the 24/7 Sports Composite. This is number 4 edge rusher in the entire country, the number 30 overall prospect, number 8 player in the state of Florida, obviously a part of the great program there, the Ascenders of IMG Academy. And guess what? On the heels of an SEC championship win last night and a look ahead to the college football playoff where Georgia's 13-0, to kind of squeeze in a little 5-star commitment here on a Sunday, I got to tell you, that is a pretty good way to be doing all of this. So, and by the way, we're now on dognation.com there too. So, no, I don't know what that signal means. Okay, so we do have Jeff and Connor with us here too. So it is a good day to be a dog, and we are happy to have you all tuning in to be a part of it. And we're also happy to have from Dog Nation our recruiting insider Jeff Sintel and, of course, Connor Riley there. Well, we'll bring both of them into the conversation here right now. And, Jeff, I will start with you. To me, this just sort of seems like about as drama-free an announcement as you can possibly get, and that is certainly, I think, a good thing here, is that Georgia put its sights on Mpemba, hosted him very well in an official visit the few weeks ago, and now gets the hay in the barn today. Big ad for Georgia in this class of 2023. What else can you tell us about it?
Yeah, Brandon. Hey, guys. I guess I got to have some exuberance here on my beat like you were last night, trying to jump into my arms like an LSU quarterback after an SEC championship. Here's what it is. This was kind of like people that have been following our shows and our programs for a long time. This was kind of like the 2023 version of Malik Herring. This was the guy that was the most uncommitted, committed kind of Bulldog prospect that we've seen in some time. You see him right there in the Bass Pro Shops hat. He actually prefers Sam Mpemba, Brandon.
I like
since
that.
The five-star did us the service and the courtesy of committing the day after Georgia makes number 1 in the college football playoffs. It is the giving season. I believe it's his mother's birthday.
Nice.
He's a native of the West African nation of Ghana.
Is that right?
He took his official visit. He rocked the old school Georgia Kirby Smart. But I want you to look at that video right there. That's what we got. Folks, I've been to, 97 Georgia home games of late. And look how perfectly timed this was. I want you to watch the slow-mo. Watch Kirby and Sam taking a lap around Sanford Stadium. Kirby did a quick change in 11 minutes after the dog walk, got in his game day gear. Look at this. Look at the symphony here with the students coming down, filling the student section, and Kirby can say, yeah, our students get after it right there. Brandon, I've never seen Kirby do that before with a recruit. I've never seen a recruit wear a Kirby Smart old school 16 jersey on his photo shoot.
I love it.
You go to dognation.com right now. You want to get that insidery stuff, that good juju. It's pretty cool. One of the things we noticed back in September when Central Phoenix, everybody knows that's where the 5-star cornerback currently resides. They played IMG Academy back in, I believe, September the 23rd. It was one of those rare weeks that I was away from you, Brandon, and your Peachtree TV broadcasts or whatever, with good reason, because A.J. Harris played reporter at midfield, and he's like, dude, what are you going to do? And he got his own personal answer then from Samuel Mpemba. And I guess kind of the rest of it, Brandon, we can say now is just recruiting history. I will say one thing for folks. This is one that I would say as a Christmas present, do not open until 2024. This young man was a tight end. He was a wide receiver at IMG Academy as a junior. He switched to play defense full-time for IMG Academy, was a starter, 6'3" and some change, about 248, 249. Now will be an edge defender. Georgia sees him a lot like Nolan Smith in their defensive scheme. This is a huge kudos for Chidera Uzo-Deribe, Coach Deribe. I could say a lot more, but where are my manners? I know Connor wants to jump in here, throwing haymakers left and right about what he thinks about Mr. Mpemba.
Yeah, Connor, to me, this kind of comes down to you can't fight 25 wars in recruiting. You got to have a few easy wins. And obviously, I'm not saying a guy like Mpemba, I mean, that's a big get for Georgia. But the fact they didn't have to exactly strain themselves down the stretch on this. To me, it just gives me more resources to devote to something else. Huge win for Georgia, and the way they got it, I think, really aids the program too.
Yeah, and it's a position that needs new talent. Obviously, Nolan Smith going to the NFL after this year, Robert Beal as well there. And you haven't seen the progression out, I think, of Chaz Chambliss or MJ Sherman. They would feel really confident about what you have. I think their number 3 outside linebacker right now is actually an inside linebacker in Jalen Walker that they're moving there. So just to have another body there, I think is important for this team. And as we, spin this ahead, I think Jeff's point on not expecting Mpemba to come in right away and be, a Harold Perkins type player. And again, Harold Perkins is a very different player, sure. But, an edge rushing force there right away. You really have to go back to Nolan Smith in that 2019 class. For the last time a freshman really came in and played, I would say, a significant role for Georgia and at that outside linebacker position. They don't just ask them, and Nolan Smith, I think, is the poster child for this, to be a guy that just pins his ear back and gets after the pressure. They ask their outside linebackers to do a lot. And for a guy who has as much upside as Mpemba does, to expect him to come in and do that right away, I think is a big ask, which is why you're going to see Georgia go out and continue to recruit a guy like Damon Wilson, who it sounds like he is nearing a decision ultimately between Georgia and Ohio State, it sounds like. But this outside linebacker position was a really important one for Georgia in this cycle. First-year position coach in Jadera Uzo-Diribe gets a big win. They also have Gabe Harris at this position as well, who was an IMG prospect there as well, teammate with Mpemba this year. I do not think that should go unnoticed there. And so it's a really nice win for Uzo-Diribe in his first year to get a guy of this caliber to help restock the talent in that room, which I think we can say has fallen off here a little bit of late. They really need Marvin Jones Jr. to make some big strides this offseason to put that position back in a position where it was, say, back in 2019 or 2020 when you had Nolan Smith, Azeez Ojulari, Jermaine Johnson, guys who are all NFL-level players.
And Connor, I'm sorry, Jeff, I think Connor's touching on, I think what is maybe the most important about this point of this at all, which is this is a position of need for UGA and probably a significant position of need. Georgia was a great defense last year, maybe the best of all time, but stacking these elite edge rushers is really not something that Georgia has done as of late. You can debate some of the recruiting decisions. You can do all that you want to, but the fact of the matter is that Georgia needed more at this position. It needs the kind of high-end player that Samuel Mpemba represents. And, Jeff, that may be the biggest storyline of all here, is that Georgia is stocking up at the position defensively. It probably needs more than any other.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is it was really a change of philosophy with Georgia at the outside linebacker position. What do I mean by that? Nolan Smith's about 6'3", maybe 6'2 and a half, about 230, 225 coming into Georgia. MJ Sherman was kind of much that stature. Same thing for Chaz Chambliss. They've learned, and you look at college football, those prototypes now look more like T-Rexes, 6'5", lots of length. One of the things that was always hard for Nolan to adjust to at Georgia, and he's the most athletic and hard-nosed and intense and hardwired and twitchy athlete you can imagine, was just he'd just get locked out by some of Georgia's really long-armed bookend tackles and edge rushers. And Georgia just figured out, like, look at Chase Bosa, look at Joey Bosa, look at Chase Young, Nick Bosa, those brothers like that. They wanted more guys that looked like that because that's what the NFL wanted. And look what they've done of late. Mikel was kind of seen as a guy that can do that, but now he's so much more valuable on the defensive line for Georgia, not just outside on the edge. Marvin Jones Jr., 6'5" or so. And Damon Wilson. A couple of other takeaways here. Connor was right to bring up Damon Wilson. First of all, there's an ING pipeline to discuss here. This will be the 13th player with ING connections that will have chosen Georgia since Isaac Nada way back in 2016 class. And their names keep going on. There's a lot of names. Current guys, Bear Alexander, Dalen Everett, to name a few. But the funny thing there is Wilson, and we see some video there of Wilson, his team right there, and he's a guy that's even rated a little bit more highly than Mpemba. I think Damon is a guy that can come in and do those Nolan Smith type things for Georgia. Funny, it's a battle between Georgia and Ohio State. A lot of my sources here kind of say that Georgia's kind of got a lead where each school is kind of sneaking their toe in front of the other in this kind of long distance race for Wilson. Here's one for you, Brandon. It's going to take two things. One, we really don't understand Florida high school football and the way they do their state championships because they have rural state champions and brackets with 4 classifications. They have Metro state champions with brackets and 4 classifications, and they have suburban state champions with brackets and 4 classifications. So it's like a 4R, a 4S. Why am I going into all that? Because the 4 suburban state championship game is going to be Damon Wilson right there and his Venice Indians taking on Lakeland, Florida, and Tyler Williams, the Georgia wide receiver commitment.
That's fun.
You want to talk about a game that's going to draw some ears and eyes? I know Brandon might offer your play-by-play services to any Florida vendor that wants to bring you on and do that, just so you can see those two guys.
Sure.
Funny thing there is they've got a 2-week break before those two teams meet right there, and that's a game that a lot of Georgia fans will have eyes on. And again, man, I think that's December the 17th, closing in on the early signing period as well. One of those things where you could probably see coaches on the road at that game as well. Certainly there would be every reason to.
No, I think that's really interesting. And Connor, how about the other part that we brought up a moment ago, which is that, this for Georgia comes on the heels of winning an SEC championship and the obviously college football playoff announcement today, where Georgia was once again named as the number 1 team. Kirby talks a lot in a different context about momentum being a real thing, but it seems like right now there might be some program momentum here too. How much of this, whether it just be good vibes, how much of this kind of becomes the sort of thing that Georgia can build off of with the rest of this 2023 recruiting cycle?
Yeah, the vibes around this Georgia class right now are borderline immaculate. And I'll put on the Jeff hat here. I know he's talked about this before, but you look at the defensive talent that they signed a year ago in that class. We're already seeing that on the field this year for Georgia. Malachi Starks, Michael Williams, Bear Alexander, Jalen Walker, et cetera, et cetera. They signed 8 guys last year that were top 100 overall prospects on the defensive side of the ball. They've already got 5 now committed right now. And I think Jeff and I both agree that Georgia is far from done on the defensive side of the football in terms of bringing in more talent. You see often online, saying if you're a Georgia, especially based off last year where they send 5 first-round picks in the defensive draft, in the NFL draft, all on the defensive side of the ball. If you're a defensive prospect, why would you go anywhere else other than Georgia? I think you're seeing that on the recruiting trail right now, because guess what? Georgia's going to probably put another 4 first-rounders out there in the NFL draft this year, with 3 of them potentially coming on the defensive side of the ball. And you're going to see that continue to stack up in the recruiting rankings that we see from him. Obviously, Damon Wilson is a big name to know. They're going to continue to recruit some big-name guys at that defensive side of the ball. And I think Mpemba is the first big one to fall this month. But with National Signing Day set for December 21st, he is certainly not going to be the last one on the defensive side of the ball to join this Georgia class.
Yeah, Jeff, that sets me up to kind of give you the last word here. What is next for Georgia? That's always the question after the big win. What kind of comes next? What are the next dominoes to fall as we head towards December 21st and the start of the early signing period?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of schools announcing portal guys, portal in, portal out. I don't know if Georgia will be that active on that front. Maybe incoming, but not outgoing. Maybe definitely not as active as other schools. You hear like Miami's going to try and turn over half its roster, upwards of 40, 42 players. Other schools are going to do that by a ratio of maybe 80 to 70% high school kids and maybe 30% portal guys. And I think Georgia's got its own way of doing things. Brendan, here's what's going to be very interesting. And this is something I learned kind of late last week. Another thing that we weren't really expecting to see. Let's go forward here. The early signing period is December the 21st. Some of these players, Brendan, they're going to coincide with bowl practices. Mm-hmm. Georgia will be having bowl practices by that time. What always happens at that time is a lot of the early enrollees see Oscar Delp last year, see Michael Williams last year. A lot of those guys got in work during their early bowl practices. So you're going to see some of these players that will have signing ceremonies already, and perhaps they're going to have to try to find a way, whether it's they sign a financial aid form or whatever, to find a way to try and be a part of those bowl practices. I think it's a unique wrinkle to try and be part of that. And they may not – Brandon, you could see guys signing officially on that Wednesday and already be in Athens because they want to practice that day for the team. Brendan, we've never seen that before, that kind of synergy of kind of calendar. Georgia's still planning. I think Kirby Smart even said it on his multiple media hits today that they're going to host official visitors this weekend. They're not going to be many because they only have a few left. They just offered a young man. That's another story on DogNation.com right now, Brandon. A first-year senior high school football player. It's a terrific story there about overcoming adversity, especially adversity in his family life. Brandon, he was forced to work 40 hours a week beginning when he was 14 years old, so he never got the chance to play football. I think the good Lord upstairs helped him out there by the fact that he's 6'5" and 275 and looks like a Power 5 prospect on the defensive line and the offensive line. Of course, that's probably some fallout from Davian Hobbs to Tennessee, and now Josh Horton, the guy that they'd liked at Langston Hughes, flipping earlier today from North Carolina to Miami. I think you got some names to track still late. Brendan, I've got a close in mind on my kind of private little calculator on my phone where the Dogs can even overtake the Crimson Tide for the nation's #1 class in 2023. But, folks, if they do and if they don't, doesn't really matter because like what Brandon said earlier and some of those words that Connor had to say as well, so much momentum right here with Georgia football. Feels like things have never been hotter. And I think they're going to heat up a little bit more on the recruiting trail.
Boy, I love it. Great stuff. Connor Riley, Jeff Sintel here on this Kroger Commitment Special. And by the way, speaking of our friends at Kroger, they got some fun stuff going for you this holiday season, too. You love spending time with your kids and your family. Well, Kroger Chef Jr. is a great opportunity for you to do that. It's a guided kids cooking experience. And this month, you can make those holiday brownies coming up again this Saturday. Another chance to be a part of that. So go to the website, KrogerChefJr.com. That's KrogerChefJr.com. The word junior spelled out Junior. It's $7 per child. You can learn about the holiday brownies you're making this month, but you also get all kinds of cool like kitchen paraphernalia to go along with this there too. There's a chef's hat, an apron, a patch, and so many kind of fun things like that. So the website to go to, KrogerChefJr.com for more on that. All right, stay close to Dog Nation. Connor and Jeff got plenty of stuff for you on the side, and throughout the next few weeks, we'll pop in here and do the recruiting chat we need to. Georgia adds a big one. What a weekend for the Dogs. SEC champs, #1 in the country, 5-star edge rusher now in the fold as well. Things are rarely better than they are right now. And here at Dog Nation, we're proud to be a part of it with you. And we'll talk to you again next time.